Does this sound like you hitting a great drive, getting it all the way down there, and then you're left with a wedge in your hand, and then disaster happens. You chunk it, you thin it, you miss the green from inside 100 yards, and it's just killing your game. Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk about what are some of the causes of that, what are some of the best players in the world doing, and how you can apply that to your game. So be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when the next video is coming. So some of the best players in the world over time have been really good ball strikers, really good drivers of the golf ball, but they've lacked in the wedge category. One of these guys would be Dustin Johnson. Incredible ball striker, incredible off the tee, but struggled to win any majors because his wedges weren't very good. What did he do? He went out and practiced. He got his wedges to an elite level and went on to win a couple majors after that. I'm going to show you today one of the drills he used to do just that and how you can apply it to your game. So let's define some things. What happens with these wedge shots that are causing you to lose strokes on the golf course? Well, a lot of you probably chunk it. A lot of you probably thin it. Let's talk about what causes some of these chunks and thins out on the golf course for you and how we're gonna fix that. Well, a chunk and thin are actually caused by the similar thing, your low point being too far back. What's low point? Let's think of low point as where your club bottoms out, okay? That's a simplified version of it. It's a little bit deeper than that, but let's just simplify it for today. So low point, so if you're someone who chunks it, the lowest part of your swing occurs behind the golf ball. If you're someone who tops it, the lowest part of your swing also occurs behind the golf ball. The difference between a chunk and a thin is a matter of a few millimeters, whether you avoid hitting the ground or you hit the ground. Hitting the ground will obviously be a chunk, avoiding the ground would obviously be a top. What do we see some of the common traits of someone who chunks and thins it? They get up to the top, they get down into impact, and let's just say their right knee, for example, from the downline camera, moves down too much, right? And then from there, you're left with an option. You're either going to stay down and chunk it, or you're going to pull your arms up and probably thin or top it. So a common thing I see on an everyday basis with my students is people moving down too much, flexing their right knee down too much, causing too much pressure to happen on this right leg, causes them to move down, and then they have to make a split-second decision right before impact whether they're going to do this with their arms or keep them extended, right? And 1 out of every 10 times you're able to pull it off. You're able to pull your arms up just enough. So we're going to talk about how we're going to isolate this right leg, how we're going to get it to work more in the up and so vertical and lateral motion as opposed to moving down too much and causing that. So everyone asks me, should I be steep or shallow in these shorter wedge shots? That's kind of the big debate going on in golf right now. I teach tons of players, Division I players at Big Ten schools and different schools around the country. And I worked with some really low handicaps. And what I can unequivocally tell you is everyone is slightly different, right? I have some of my best players that are more shallow into the golf ball. I have some of my best players that are more steep into the golf ball. I think both methods work. I think both methods you should know to make you a better wedge player. I don't think you should jump into one camp or the other. Now, that being said, what I will say is I have found personally in testing with TrackMan and Foresight that the everyday golfer that I see, right? The everyday golfer being a higher handicap. So let's say a 15 handicap and up, right? What I have found is that the majority of those players, when I steepen them, I get them into a better position and I steepen them, they tend to hit the ball a lot better. Now, that's not the case for everyone. Some people do hit it better in the shallow motion. I've just found on average, the majority of my players that I steepen, I get them to hit better shots. But again, I have tons of players that are more shallow into the golf ball. We'll say I hit tons of shallow shots, I hit tons of steep shots. It just all depends. But I think no matter what, whether you're steep or shallow, there are different things we can kind of mess with there. They're fundamentals from both of them that make them very, very successful and that anybody can apply to their game. And if you're somebody who wants to kind of work on your wedges, I do teach online lessons on Skillest where you can take lessons anywhere in the world. You can get this wedge work. We can talk a little bit more in depth about this steep versus shallow. And I also have a Discord channel where like-minded golfers like you are in there trying to play their best golf. You can talk with me in there. We can have a conversation and we can help you play your best golf. So I'll see everybody in there. So now we're going to roll into how we'd want to hit a traditional 20 to 40 yard shot, the setup I'd want to see, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's go over like a standard 30 yard shot, let's say, right? So we're going to start at 30, then we're going to work up to a little bit more of like what I'd call a distance wedge. So setup wise with this, what I want to see my players do, just as a reference point, when you get set up, I want to see your feet 2 to 3 club heads apart. I'd say like 2, depends on how tall you are and all that. So 2 to 3 club heads apart, again, for a 30-yard pitch shot. When you set up from the downline camera, what I don't want to see, the butt of the club here, I don't want to see the butt of the club pointing below my belt buckle. I want to feel like I get closer and I get the butt of that club to point more up towards my sternum area in my chest. Again, I don't want to feel like it's here. The sensation you're actually going to get is you're going to feel like the heel is off the ground and the toe is the only thing in the ground. You're going to have your hands higher, okay? So we're going to get closer. We're going to have our feet closer. We're going to stand closer. We're going to have our hands higher. You can choke down on the club still from here, and I want you to feel taller in this posture. Far too often I see players come in like this for a 30-yard chip shot. They have their feet wide. They have the butt of the club pointed too low. The toe is up in the air. And then from there, they're just chunking and thinning all these wedge shots. So again, the setup checks here. We're going to get closer. We're going to get taller. We're going to have our hands higher. And then from there, we're actually going to feel like the heel is off the ground in this setup position. Now from there, one of the biggest things we're going to talk about is how this right leg is working and how we're going to stop that, right? So then from this position, what we're going to do is as the club goes back, right? What I want you to feel, I don't need you to feel like you keep all of your pressure on the left side, but I need it to get there. So as you take the club back, you're going to have a slight pressure shift back into your right foot. But as that club starts ascending, you should fall, have the sensation of falling or moving left. What this is going to do, it's going to get our center of our body in front of the golf ball, which is going to push that low point further forward. Again, what do most people struggle with? Their low point happens too far behind the golf ball, which causes that chunk or thin. So we want to feel like as we take the club back, yes, my pressure is probably going to move a little bit into my right foot. That's fine. But we should feel like we're falling left. Recentering left is another way to think about it. I tell kids, feel like you're squashing a bug, you're pressing down with that foot. So you're going to see actually, as I take this club back, there's going to be a moment where I push right, but then I'm going to fall back left really early when I hit this 30-yard shot. So again, set up 2 to 3 club heads apart. I'm standing closer, my hands are higher. Then as I take the club back, yes, I'm going to push a little right, but then I'm going to fall back left and go from there. There we go. I pulled off a 30-yard shot. My low point was ahead. I made ball first contact. I hit down on that about 6 degrees. Again, whether you hit a ton down on the golf ball or you're maybe you want to hit 12 down, maybe you want to hit 6 down. I don't really care what it is as long as the results are there, right? If you're someone who's, better at being more like, we'll say shallow into the golf ball, as long as the results are there, I don't care. If you're someone who getting you steeper is going to help you in the long run, let's do that for you. If the results are there, we're going to stick with that. Okay, so now part 2 of this. So that was setup we just covered. Now we're going to talk about this right leg that I've talked a lot about and alluded to. All this stuff I'm talking about here, we can apply to the full swing or the distance wedge, we'll call it, like a longer wedge, 80 yards, 70 yards, whatever it is. When you get set up in here, right? So we've already went through this setup. Again, let's talk about a 30-yard pitch shot or 30-yard shot just to kind of cover something basic here. So 2 to 3 club heads apart. I'm closer. My hands are taller. The butt of the club's pointed more towards my sternum, not below my belt buckle. A lot of people, when they get up to the top of their swing, their first motion on the way down, they move down too much. Their right knee collapses. Their spine moves this way. Their right knee collapses. That causes the low point to move back. So how do we solve this? Well, we can do one thing in setup, and the other thing we can do as like a little drill. So in setup, what we're going to try to do, we actually want our spine to feel like it's tilted slightly forward. So I'm going to feel like my left shoulder drops a little bit. That gets my spine pointed this way. It's going to make me hit a little bit more down on it, but we need to shift that low point forward. So I don't want you set up like this. We're going to get that spine a little more this way. So left shoulder down. So I'm here. I'm going to tilt a little bit this way. And then as I take the club back, what I could feel, the sensation I would have, I don't want you to lock this knee out like that. But I want you to feel like once you get into your position, this right knee, almost imagine I put like a metal brace around it. Like I lock that leg in there. It can't flex down. The only thing it can do is flex up. So then you're going to hit some small shots where you feel like that right leg is almost locked out. So my spine's tilted this way, my right leg's locked out, and I'm just going to try to hit a little shot like this and try not to let that right knee collapse down and move down towards the golf ball. You've heard me talk about this in the full swing a little bit, where we see a lot of people who slice the golf ball, their right knee at the top moves this way, which causes them to move this way a lot. So It's a little bit different. That's relying a little bit more on rotation, where we see with the wedges with most people, they're just moving down too aggressively. So we want you to stay up. So super simple, feel like you're almost locking that right leg out. We've covered like a 30-yard shot. We've covered the setup. And then part two, we've covered kind of what we want to do with this right leg and what we want to do with our spine at setup. So now let's go up a little bit. Let's go to like a 70-yard shot and talk about some things that you could apply that guys like Dustin Johnson and other guys have done. And I'll even share with you kind of what I do on a distance wedge shot to make sure I make solid contact. At setup, let's just go to a 70-yard shot here. So at setup, I'm going to be a little wider than 2 to 3 club heads apart, but I'm not going to be fully at like a 9-iron or 8-iron or whatever it is. So I'm going to get set up in here. I'm probably going to feel actually shoulder width here. So too often people with a 7-iron, they say shoulder width and they stand like this. You need to get those feet wider for a 7-iron. So with this 70-yard wedge, I'm going to get a little wider with my feet. I don't know, let's call it 4 club heads apart. So I'm set up there. I'm still going to be a little closer and my hands are still going to be a little taller, right? And just for me, something I've used in the past, because I hate chunking the golf ball, especially on a wedge, especially over water. So what I do, I just have this feel that, imagine the sun was right above you, like it was noon and you were hitting balls on the range. I want to feel like my head, the shadow of my head stays over my left foot while I do this. Now, you probably are going to think back to that 30-yard shot where I said, yes, you're going to push into your right a little bit. That's still going to happen. If I had you on pressure plates, I'm still, personally me, I'm going to push into that right, then going to fall back to the left. But for me, the problem I get into is I stay back on my right a little bit too long, especially with these wedges, because I don't have as much time as I do with a 7-iron, for instance. So I'm going to get set up in here. I'm going to imagine the sun was right over me. So actually I don't know if you guys can see this, but I can kind of see my shadow with the lights above me. So right now my head is over my foot. I want to feel like as I take the club back, I keep the shadow of my head over my foot, over my lead foot. And then in transition, I want to get the shadow of my head slightly outside of my foot. This is going to ensure that I keep my low point forward. This is going to ensure that I also make ball first contact, right? So again, super simple feel here. I'm going to get set up. I want to feel like if that sun was right above me and I had a shadow, I want to feel like the shadow of my head's over my left foot. I want to feel like I keep it over my left foot, and then in transition, I want to move it slightly outside of my left foot, just as a simple reference point. So about a 50-yard wedge shot here. My ball position is still slightly forward of center. I'm not way in the back, still slightly forward of center. Hands are a little higher like normal. Then I'm just going to simply feel like I keep my head over that spot to ensure ball first contact. So I hit it way further than 50 yards, so let's call it a 70-yard shot. But on that shot, right, I was able to hit ball first contact. I was able to shift my low point forward by feeling like I keep the shadow of my head over my lead foot, and then in transition, feeling like I get the shadow slightly outside of my foot. You would actually probably physically see me on the video move forward slightly or move this way. I say that sensation is almost like you're falling this way. Okay, so now one of my favorite drills that we've seen Dustin Johnson do over the years. It's the look-through drill. So a lot of times when I have players get in here that tend to chunk it, right? So they get here, their right knee moves down, their head moves down, they hit the shot, and then their head finally looks up at the end. They're essentially keeping their head down too long. So if I've made a video on this before, if someone's ever told you to keep your head down, don't listen to them. Bad advice. The head's going to move. The head has to move. So a fun drill you can do is called the look-through drill. You actually see Dustin Johnson do this. So you're going to set up like you're hitting like a full wedge shot. You want to feel like you get up to the top. As the club starts down, you're actually going to have your head turn, look through. You should be at impact, almost looking out at your target. We're actually going to get the head moving through. This is going to get us moving more, well, I guess we can say through the shot, but more importantly, more up through the shot. I'm actually going to be extending on the way through as opposed to staying down and bringing my arms in or slamming that knee down. So I'm actually going to feel like I'm kind of turning through the shot and moving up as much as possible. So I actually want you to feel like you're physically moving up as you're sending the club down. That's the feel. So a little look through drill. So you're going to get set up here. As the club comes down, I'm going to start to look through and hit the shot. You will probably thin some of these and you'll probably top the first couple that you do, but the idea is we don't want you moving down. We actually want you moving up through the shot. So again, this is a look through drill. Your head is going to move. Don't worry about your head moving. Everything you've heard about that is not true and not backed up by anything. So we're here. We're going to feel like as the club comes down, my head turns through. I may thin this one a little bit. And right on cue, I thinned it, right? So let's try another one. See if I can get a little better contact on that one. But the nice thing there was I didn't move down, I moved up through the shot. This is like one of my favorite drills to do. I used to hit little chip shots like this. You can actually do like little 30-yarders where you're looking through like that. Like that was really good. But we're gonna try a little bit longer ones because I think this is a great drill for someone who tends to chunk these longer, we'll call them distance wedges. So again, I'm gonna look through as the club comes down. There we go. That was a really good shot there. So I shifted my low point forward. My body moved up and through the shot. I didn't stay down and break down those arms. So that's kind of the drill that we've seen Dustin Johnson use over the years. Really, really good drill. You'll see out on the range that your divots are going to shallow out a little bit, so they're not going to be as deep. You might not even make some divots with this. So a really good way to practice distance wedge shots is try not to make a divot with them. That funny clip with Tiger saying to Scotty he doesn't make divots, right? That'd be a good way to practice. Odds are when you're on the course, you're gonna make a little bit of a divot, but let's hope that divot's in front of the golf ball. In this video, you should have gotten a better understanding for one, not only how to set up for like a 20 or 30 yard shot, but also how to avoid that chunk or that top shot that you're seeing out on your rounds after you hit a really good drive. So the idea here is we want to feel like we're moving up through the wedge shot. We don't want to feel like we're moving down anyway. We want to isolate that right leg and then also do that Dustin Johnson drill, the look through drill. Try that drill. Let me know how it is. It's going to take you a few times to get it down, but it's a really good drill. It's going to help you stop moving down. I actually know some people that actually hit their wedge shots like that on a daily basis. So make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when the next video is coming.